Hello friends, Dr. Sam here again, and it's Monday with Doc. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule to join me today. Today is part 2 with Pastor Chris Harrell, Dr. Gregory Campbell, and they're going to be joined by his son, Pastor Campbell's son, and his name is Jonathan. Jonathan is a student at Baylor University, and I guarantee what he has to share will encourage your heart. Now listen, don't miss next week. I have a special challenge for you. God bless you. See you soon.
Okay, your dad, and I want to bring John up in a minute, but tell us a little bit about your son, and then I'm going to ask him a couple questions before we conclude here.
Yeah, I'm married, been married. I think I got this wrong on a recent interview I was doing with you. You
ain't got to bring me into that, man.
I'm
gonna blame that.
I am going home and tell my wife it was Chris' fault.
Ain't got nothing to do with me.
That's what brotherly love is. You got to take the heat on that one for me.
Yeah, I'm in it with you.
But I think
now.
I've been married 28 years, I think. And beautiful wife, met her in high school. We have a daughter that's 24 getting married next month in July.
Congratulations.
And just so proud of her. She's a teacher, she's an educator, and she's living her passion, man. She loves teaching kids. And then I have a son, his name is Jonathan. He's my pride and joy. He's my namesake. He's going to carry on my name. My daughter about to get a new last name, but my son is going to carry on my last name, man. And he's he played ball just like I did growing up, so I love watching him play ball. And then probably the part that excites me most about him is that he is a smart, educated, God-fearing young man, and that makes me proud as a dad.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, John, go ahead, come on up and join us real quick. We're so glad to have you guys here. What a great portrait it is for all of our friends with Dr. Sam's network and influence, and everybody watching around the world that you guys are. And I mean that. You inspire me, but you guys also, as a father and son, I know you inspire so many people of color to look up to you as a father, as a son. You're so well accomplished. The accolades are deserving, and what's cool is it's the same, with you. I'm gonna brag on you real quick, just so because you have to, that we ain't gonna brag on yourself. Even though I know if I left it out, your dad would probably fill in the blanks. But you are currently a double major at Baylor, yes. And you're studying. What are you studying?
Business management and entrepreneurship and corporate innovation. Wonderful.
I mean. Some of you have never even put those words together in a sentence or in order before, okay, like me. John, tell us what in your heart when you see the stuff that happened with George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor. It's all so, the dominoes really went bam, 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 bam. Yeah. And it just has broke open a discussion, not for black people and not for people who have always had relationship with black people. But I think that there's a new discussion being had. We talked a little bit about it this morning. How does it feel for you right now? How has it felt, and what does it feel like for you seeing what's happening in our world with regards to all of these things?
For me, it's scary. It establishes fear because my dad established a new normal for me. I didn't grow up where I had, my face shoved into a police car and I had to live that way, constant fear. I lived in the suburbs. I lived in predominantly white neighborhoods and predominantly white schools. I went to schools where I was one of 4 black people. For a lot of people, that would be like going to Africa, So it's a lot of fear because for me now, in a sense of seeing all this stuff, it's now of where do I go for safety? Where the way of life that my dad has established, I want to live in the suburbs still. I want nice houses. I want nice things. Now, where do I go? Who do I call for that safety? If someone breaks in my house, do I call the police, or would he think that I'm the one that's breaking into the house?
Wow, yeah.
Getting pulled over is it's a lot of fear. It's scary to ride my bike through the neighborhood now. Scary to run through the neighborhood, just getting looks as I walk through. It's just now there's a lot of tension between the two races, and I think that there needs to be conversations like this to break those barriers, those walls down, so the tension is not as big.
Help me as a white person know what I can do, because those emotions are so real and they won't go away by themselves. They won't go away if I try to prove to you that my life matters also. It won't go away if I try to ignore it and just, well, what about, but what about this, and what about, and I have all my whatabouts, which is a common tactic of diversion, of distraction, and of uncomfortability within so many of my white brothers and sisters. We get uncomfortable in this space because we're not leading it, because we don't command the knowledge base, because we're uncomfortable, because we're used to being in charge of discussions so often with people of color, that when all of a sudden I'm in a topic where I'm like, oh my goodness, like, you're the authority on the subject and I am the student. So rare is the times that white people have had to be the student underneath black people in their lives, that they don't know how to do it. And they don't even know what I just said is a part of why they feel so uncomfortable and why they bring up the whatabouts. It's because they're like, oh, this is uncomfortable. What do I need to do? It's like, it's kind of like in an argument between a husband and wife, right? Like, you bring up something that bothered you and instantly they got 9 things that you did. And you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
Can we get to that list in a second? Can we just stay right on the one that I just brought up? Is that okay? And it's a defensive tactic, right? And I find that happens with my brothers and sisters of whiteness, that we, me included, like, it's like, oh, you feel like you have to do the whatabouts, and what about this, and did you know, what about black on black crime, and what about more people get killed, more, and it's like this whole list. And the whole time I'm doing that, the only thing I'm saying to you is, the emotion you just shared don't really matter to me. I'm not gonna help you with it. I don't care about it. And I'll even say some stuff just, so insensitive. It doesn't matter if you guys are just putting dirt on George Floyd's casket. There's people that will come out and just want to. Yeah. So what works? What is it that works that white people have done or do, or you just wish in your heart sometimes that you can only say amongst like people of color at your dinner tables or whatnot, and you're like, man, it would just be, and you almost just have a dream in your heart. It would be so nice if white people could just do this when I share stuff like that. What has it been, and what could it be for me? And John, if you'd answer that, and Greg, if you have thoughts, I'd love to hear them too.
Well, for me, it's relationships. Growing up in the suburbs and as such, I have best friends. Some of my best friends are Caucasian. So for me, there was never a big line in between. I always felt like we were brothers. Yeah. And I was just listening to some music this morning and by Elevation Church, and it said, what would you do if he walked in the room right now? What would you say if he walked in the room right now? God calls us to love our neighbors as ourselves. And I want to tell you that he is here right now. God is omnipresent. Yeah. So I think just that can challenge you right there, is if he was in the room and you live your life in that, the discrimination and that, and you judge people because of their skin color. If you were right in facing God right now, Judgment Day is right now, what would you say to him? We are his people too. It's all about just making that line smaller, just establish those relationships, have these talks. My best friend called me the other day, just asked me how was I feeling. Yeah. The most powerful thing, that to me, that's a brother. Yeah. It doesn't matter what color you are. You ask me, how are you? Tell me what you're thinking. The same thing that we are doing right now, it's powerful. Wow. So to me, that is what breaks that line, that barrier between the races.
Do you feel it's different this time? Do you feel white people get more of it than they've ever got it before?
For me, Chris,
Like, are you getting more of those phone calls? Are you getting more of those texts? Then in the times gone past, it was like, oh, Ferguson was such a hotbed, and I don't know, and Michael Brown, and it was all the same way. The criminality of the black person that got shot. Well, let's wait. White people. One of the famous things we like to say is, let's wait for the facts to come out. Wait till the facts come out. Look, I'm all about the facts coming out. What I'm not about is white people using that phrase to try to say, let's wait for the facts to come out. But then when the facts come out, I go back on their Facebook timeline and I don't see any outrage. Yeah. The facts come out that he was innocent, unarmed, asleep in her room. Facts are out. Yeah. Where's the outrage? So when they use that phrase, it's not authentic. It's not genuine. It's not, when the facts come out, I will be outraged against the evil. Yeah. It's just, no, I just don't want to deal with it, and this will buy me time. Yeah. And I feel like that is how it's been. But I'm looking at it this time saying, it feels like people get it more than they ever have. And those texts and phone calls and check-ins might be happening more. Whereas 10 years ago, when Trayvon Martin 7 years ago got, I don't know how many white people called and said, how you doing right now? Yeah,
because that is the difference. That's a great question you asked. And that's why I think this moment is different. Mm-hmm. Because when previous incidents took place, it was like the black community and a few others would stand up and say how they're feeling. Now, what's happening with me is that I'm getting calls from people that don't look like me and asking me, how are you feeling? And wow, and I didn't even realize how healing, how healing that is. When someone is not asking for you to tell your story, you don't have to sort of lead the telling, but someone's asking how. And maybe it's when someone asks you, how are you feeling, you automatically sense that they want to listen. Versus when you have to initiate the telling, you don't know if people want to hear you or not. So maybe that's the difference, but it just seems different. Right now.
John, what about you?
Well, just looking at everything that's been going on, I realized that really my generation was the first generation not directly impacted by segregation and civil rights. I mean, my dad's, parents, they were in segregation, they were in civil rights. So it was our generation to actually step away to actually grow. I feel like in our generation is that healing generation. And I feel like that's why we have more people standing up, speaking for us, because now our generation is the first generation where we are intertwined as one, brothers and sisters in Christ.
You're right about that.
Yeah,
it's a powerful thought. It's a powerful thought. Well, I've enjoyed learning and being with you guys these last couple of days, but on camera, off camera, but way before that, this ain't a conversation. This is a lifestyle. This is a friendship. This is a relationship, and I'm really proud to see what God has done through Dr. Sam's influence, and we carry on his namesake and his influence. And he would never tell everybody. He'd never tell all of you that the thousands and thousands of conversations and hours he's put into us, and he didn't ask this, and he could edit this if he wants to, and you might do that, Doc, but we're not saying this for any other reason other than we love you, and the reason that John knows to say the things he just said so brilliantly, and the reason that Dr. Greg is Dr. Greg and I'm Pastor Chris and our city church exists, and he's became a federal agent up to the highest degree is because of your hand, your mentorship, your leadership, and you've taught us this conversation for multiple decades that we're able to do this so easily because we've been doing it because of you, and we love you. Yes. We're grateful to be with you and hang out with you in your backyard virtually here during this time. So we love you, and thank you guys again.
Thank you.
Bless all of you listening and watching. Thanks for tuning in. Let's change the world together. We'll see you guys.
All right, love you, Pops.